Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell y'all something. You don't really understand life until you've been broke. And I don't mean kind of broke. I mean that real, stomach growling, checking the couch for change, praying the gas tank makes it another day kind of broke. Y'all ever been there? See, when your pockets are empty, life starts talking to you real loud. It'll humble you. It'll teach you who your real friends are. It'll show you just how strong you are. And most importantly, it'll show you what you're made of. I remember a time when I was struggling. I thought I had it all figured out. But life will let you know real quick that you don't know nothing. When you got money, everybody's smiling. Everybody's your cousin. Everybody got your number. But the moment you're down bad, poof. People disappear faster than free food at a family reunion. But let me tell you the beauty of being broke. It builds something in you that money can't buy. Hustle. Oh, you learn how to move differently. You learn how to stretch a dollar so far that George Washington himself would be dizzy. You start thinking, all right, if I skip lunch today and eat a big dinner, I might just make it. That's called survival mode. And survival mode will introduce you to a version of yourself that you ain't never met before. See, money don't teach you wisdom. Struggle teaches you wisdom. Losing teaches you how to win. Failure teaches you resilience. That empty pocket you got right now, it ain't a punishment. It's a classroom. You better take notes. Because life is handing out lessons. Now, let me tell you what separates people, the ones who stay broke and the ones who break through. It's mindset. Some people sit in their struggle and throw a pity party. Others, they get up and go get it. They take that hunger, literally, and turn it into a drive so powerful that nothing can stop them. So if you're sitting here today feeling like life got you up against the ropes, I need you to understand something. This ain't the end of your story. This is just the chapter where you build character. This is where you figure out what you're really made of. Because the truth is, nobody ever made it big without a broke season. Nobody ever became successful without a struggle. And when you finally get to where you're going, you're going to look back at those empty pockets and realize they were full of lessons the whole time. Now go on and get to work. Your breakthrough is waiting. Being broke does something to a person. It strips away all the fluff, all the distractions, and gets straight to the core of who you really are. When your pockets are empty, there's no more hiding behind status, material things, or appearances. It's just you and reality, face to face. That's when life shows you what you're truly made of. It's easy to walk around with confidence when things are going well. When the bills are paid, the fridge is full, and there's a little extra in your account, you feel good about yourself. But what happens when the money runs out? When the comfort disappears? That's when character is revealed. See, money has a way of covering up weaknesses. It makes people feel secure, even when that security is built on nothing but illusion. People act like they've got it all figured out when they're doing well financially. But take the money away and watch how they react. Some people panic, some blame the world, and some shut down completely. But then there are those who take that situation, that pain, and use it to fuel them. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. When you're broke, you start to see things differently. You realize how much you've taken for granted. Things that once seemed small suddenly feel huge. Eating out without checking the prices, grabbing coffee whenever you felt like it, filling up your gas tank without doing mental math. Those things start to feel like luxuries. You start to appreciate every little thing because you know what it's like to not have it. That's a perspective money can't buy. It's one thing to hear about struggle, it's another thing to live it. And then there's the people around you. Being broke will show you real fast who's truly in your corner. When you've got money, everybody's your friend. People laugh at your jokes, answer your calls, invite you out. But the moment you hit a rough patch, the invitations stop. The phone stops ringing. People suddenly get too busy. That's when you learn the difference between friends and acquaintances, between people who are with you for real and people who are only around for the ride. It's a tough lesson, but it's a necessary one. Some of the best things that ever happen to a person come wrapped in struggle, and finding out who's really there for you is one of those things. Being broke also forces you to think differently. When money is tight, you don't have the option to be wasteful. You start paying attention in ways you never did before. You stretch every dollar, you calculate every move, and you get creative. That kind of thinking, that ability to make something out of nothing, stays with you long after the struggle is over. Some of the most successful people in the world came from nothing, and they'll tell you that being broke was their greatest teacher. It forced them to hustle, to be resourceful, to develop skills they never would have tapped into if everything had been handed to them. And let's talk about pride. Being broke will humble you real fast. You might have been the person who never asked for help, who always had things under control. But when you're down to your last few dollars, you start realizing that pride won't feed you. It won't keep the lights on. You might have to borrow money. You might have to take a job you never thought you'd do. You might have to hear no more times than you can count. But every one of those moments teaches you something. It teaches you patience. It teaches you gratitude. It teaches you resilience. There's also the mental battle that comes with being broke. The doubt, the fear, the frustration. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you're good enough, if you'll ever get out of this situation. The negative thoughts creep in, telling you that this is just the way life is, that things won't change. And this is where character is really built, right here in the middle of the struggle. Because some people listen to those voices. They give up. They accept defeat. But others, they fight back. They refuse to believe that struggle is their final destination. They might not have a clear path out yet, but they keep moving forward. Even if it's just inch by inch, they keep going. Another thing being broke does is teach you how to handle success when it finally comes. People who've never struggled, who've never had to go without, don't always appreciate what they have. They take it for granted because they've never had to earn it. But when you've been at rock bottom, when you've had to scrape and claw your way back up, you value every single thing you work for. You don't waste opportunities. You don't blow money on things that don't matter. You remember what it felt like to have nothing, and that memory keeps you grounded. And let's not forget the lessons in patience. Struggle doesn't end overnight. There's no magic button to press that fixes everything instantly. You have to work, you have to wait. And in that waiting, you learn endurance. You learn that nothing good comes easy. You learn to trust yourself, to believe in your ability to figure things out. That's a skill that will carry you through life long after the struggle is over. So yes, empty pockets hurt. Struggle is uncomfortable. But there is something powerful about being stripped down to nothing, because when you have nothing, you learn what truly matters. You learn who you are when everything is on the line. And once you know that, once you've seen yourself survive the worst, nothing can shake you. When you have no money, when your pockets are empty and you're staring at bills you can't pay, something shifts inside of you. You start seeing the world differently. The things you once ignored, the opportunities you once passed up, the skills you never thought to develop, suddenly they become important. When you have no choice but to figure things out, you tap into a part of yourself that you didn't even know was there. That's what being broke does. It forces you to move. It forces you to think. It forces you to grind in ways that comfortable people never have to. And that's why some of the most successful people in the world came from nothing. Because when you're broke, you either get stuck or you find a way out. And the ones who find a way out, they build a kind of hustle that money can't buy. There's something about not having enough that makes you pay attention in ways you never did before. You start thinking differently. Every dollar matters. Every decision counts. You don't have the luxury of wasting time or making careless choices. You start looking at what you can do, not just what you wish you could do. You realize that talent alone won't save you, and neither will waiting for the perfect opportunity. You have to go out and create something for yourself. You have to find ways to make money, to grow, to learn. That's how real hustlers are made. They aren't born with a silver spoon. They aren't handed success. They are built in the struggle. Broke people learn to be resourceful. When you don't have money, you have to make do with what you have. You have to stretch meals, stretch gas, stretch time. You start seeing possibilities where other people see dead ends. Maybe you start flipping items, maybe you pick up a side hustle, maybe you turn a skill into a service. Whatever it is, you start realizing that you don't need a perfect situation to start. You just need to start. And once you start, you learn, you adjust, you get smarter, sharper, and more determined. And let's be real, when you're struggling, the hunger is different. You move with urgency. You don't wake up slow, dragging your feet through the day, waiting for life to happen to you. You get up with a purpose because you don't have the option to sit back and wait. That kind of hunger is what separates people. There are people out there who want success. And then there are people who need success. When you need it, when your back is against the wall, you move differently. You don't complain about how hard it is because you don't have time for that. You don't sit around waiting for motivation because your situation is motivation enough. You push through tiredness, through frustration, through rejection, because stopping isn't an option. That's the thing about struggle. It builds habits in you that comfortable people don't develop. When you have to grind just to get by, you build a work ethic that stays with you for life. You learn discipline, you learn sacrifice, you learn patience. You learn how to do things you don't feel like doing simply because they have to be done. You don't just work when you feel inspired, you work because you have no choice. And that kind of consistency, that's what leads to real success. That's why the ones who make it out of struggle tend to go further than the ones who never had to struggle in the first place. They've been through too much to quit. They've built too much resilience to give up when things get hard. And here's another thing. When you've been broke, you stop making excuses. You stop blaming the system, blaming your circumstances, blaming other people. You realize that sitting around pointing fingers doesn't put money in your pocket. The moment you take responsibility, the moment you decide that you have control over your future, something shifts. You start looking for solutions instead of just talking about problems. You start focusing on what you can do instead of what's unfair. You stop waiting for a handout, a lucky break, a perfect situation. You understand that nobody is coming to save you, so you have to save yourself. That's when the real hustle begins. Being broke teaches you that comfort is the enemy of growth. When people are comfortable, they don't push themselves. They settle. They get used to routines, used to doing the bare minimum, used to living the same way year after year. But struggle forces you to change. It forces you to step outside of what's familiar. It forces you to take risks, to try new things, to challenge yourself in ways that comfort never will. That's why so many people who start from nothing end up becoming the most driven, the most ambitious, the most relentless. They've been uncomfortable for so long that they refuse to stay in that place any longer than they have to. And let's talk about rejection. When you're broke, you hear a lot of no. You get turned down for jobs, ignored by people who could help, looked over in ways that sting. But here's the thing, rejection builds toughness. It teaches you that a no is not the end of the world. It teaches you that failure is just a part of the process. It forces you to keep going, to keep knocking on doors, to keep trying. People who have had everything handed to them fold the first time they face rejection. But people who have struggled, they learn to take a hit and keep moving. They don't break down over every setback because they've been dealing with setbacks their entire lives. They understand that success is a numbers game. The more you try, the better your chances of making something happen. Then there's the confidence that comes from making something out of nothing. When you've been broke, when you've had to hustle just to survive, you develop a belief in yourself that nobody can take away. You know what you're capable of because you've seen yourself figure things out time and time again. You've seen yourself push through the hardest days. You've seen yourself create opportunities where there were none. That confidence is different from the kind that comes from having things handed to you. It's unshakable. It's real. It's the kind of confidence that keeps you going even when the odds are stacked against you. And once you develop that hustle mindset, it never leaves you. Even when you finally start making money, even when you get out of that broke season, you don't forget what it took to get there. You don't lose that hunger. You don't go back to being comfortable and careless. You keep pushing, keep grinding, because you know how quickly things can change. You know what it's like to struggle. And you never want to go back to that place. That's why people who come from nothing often outwork everyone else. They remember what it felt like to have nothing. And that memory keeps them moving forward. When you're broke, your mindset is the difference between staying stuck and breaking through. It's not just about how much money you have in your pocket. It's about how you think, how you see yourself, and how you respond to your situation. Some people let struggle define them, while others use struggle to fuel them. That's the difference between people who stay broke and the ones who rise above it. Because at the end of the day, money problems are real, but they're not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is how you think about them. There are people who go through tough times and immediately start playing the victim. They blame the world, blame the economy, blame their parents, blame bad luck. They sit in their struggle, repeating the same story to themselves about why things will never change. Why? And then there are the people who look at their situation and say, all right, this is where I am, but this is not where I'm staying. That shift in mindset is everything. It's the difference between complaining and problem solving. It's the difference between waiting for a miracle and creating your own opportunities. Being broke is temporary, but a broke mindset can last a lifetime. If you believe that your circumstances control you, you'll never do anything to change them. If you believe that you're always going to struggle, that success is for other people, that life is unfair and there's nothing you can do about it, then guess what? You'll prove yourself right every single day. But if you start thinking differently, if you start telling yourself that your situation is temporary, that you have control over your future, that you can learn, grow, and improve, then everything starts to shift. Your mindset is the foundation for everything. The way you talk to yourself matters. A lot of people don't even realize they've been programmed to think small. They've been raised in environments where struggle was normal, where nobody around them ever succeeded, where people told them directly or indirectly that dreaming big was unrealistic. So they grow up believing that the best they can do is survive, not thrive. They don't even allow themselves to imagine more because they've been taught that people like them don't win. That's a broke mindset, and it's more dangerous than being broke. Because if your mind is stuck, then even if an opportunity shows up, you won't take it. Even if you get money, you won't keep it. Even if success is possible, you won't believe in it enough to go after it. Some people will argue that their circumstances are different, that their struggle is worse than everybody else's, that they have obstacles other people don't have. And you know what? That might be true. But it doesn't change the fact that there are people who have been in even worse situations and still found a way to rise. There are people who came from nothing, who had every reason to fail, but they made a choice to think differently. They refused to accept struggle as their final story. They trained their minds to see opportunities instead of obstacles. They focused on what they could do instead of what they couldn't do. Your mindset is either working for you or against you. If you spend all your time talking about how unfair life is, how hard it is, how things never go your way, then you are reinforcing that reality. But if you shift your thoughts, if you start focusing on solutions, if you start looking for small wins, if you start believing that change is possible, then you're setting yourself up for something better. The way you think influences the way you act, and the way you act determines your results. Successful people don't think like everybody else. They don't waste time complaining. They don't focus on what they can't control. They don't let failure stop them. They see failure as a lesson, as information, as something to learn from. Broke people, on the other hand, take failure personally. They see one setback as proof that they'll never make it. They try something once, it doesn't work, and they give up. They tell themselves, see, I knew it wouldn't work. But successful people keep going. They adjust, they learn, they keep pushing, and that persistence is what separates them. Another big difference between those who stay broke and those who break through is how they see money. People with a broke mindset see money as something that comes and goes, something that's always slipping through their fingers, something they never have enough of. They see rich people as lucky or greedy or born into privilege. They see making money as something difficult, stressful, or even impossible. But people who break through understand that money is a tool. They learn how to manage it, how to grow it, how to use it wisely. They understand that making money is about providing value, about solving problems, about thinking differently. There's a reason why some people stay broke even after they get money. They win the lottery, they get a big check, they come into some cash, and a year later, they're back where they started. Why? Because their mindset never changed. They still think like a broke person, so they spend like a broke person. They don't invest, they don't save, they don't plan for the future. They get money, and they immediately find ways to blow it. That's why changing your mind is more important than changing your bank account. Because if you fix your mindset first, the money will come. And when it does, you'll know how to handle it. People with a broke mindset avoid learning. They don't read books, they don't study successful people, they don't try to gain new skills, they think they already know everything, or they assume that learning isn't for them. But people who break through understand that growth never stops. They're always looking to improve, always looking for ways to get better, always willing to learn. They don't see education as something that ends after school. They see it as something that happens for a lifetime. And let's talk about excuses. Broke people have a long list of them. I don't have time. I don't have the right connections. I wasn't born into money. I don't have the experience. They can explain in detail why success is impossible for them. But the people who break through, they have every reason to make excuses, but they don't. They find a way. They don't wait for the perfect conditions, the perfect moment, the perfect setup. They start where they are with what they have. The truth is, everybody has struggles. Everybody has challenges. But the way you think about those challenges will determine your future. If you see them as permanent, you'll stay stuck. If you see them as temporary, you'll find a way to push through. The struggle isn't what stops people. The way they think about the struggle is what stops them. Mindset is everything. It's not just about where you come from, it's about where you decide to go. It's about how you train yourself to think, how you push yourself to grow, and how you refuse to let anything, including an empty pocket, define your future.